Hello everybody, so I'm Michael Rollet. I am in charge of the research and innovation at ATEM. So ATEM is a coding company, so they are doing encoders, and I will present our work on advanced coding with ATSC 3.0. So the idea of ATSC 3.0 is to have a better spectrum efficiency, to have a higher quality of video, so they target 4K UHD, and also HDR and immersive audio. So that's the three important topics that will improve the video quality. So the consumption on the devices are different because we're also targeting fixed and mobile, not only TVs. That's something that is quite new also for the broadcast in America. We want to have something that is robust, so that is we can have at the same time a fixed home reception and also a mobile reception. And for sure, what is quite important is to be able to have also content protection. Something that I like also in ATSC 3.0 is the fact that it's more user. The interactivity is quite important in ATSC 3.0, and it's user-oriented more than broadcast-oriented. And you can add through the broadcast, which is the mainstream, the broadband. And I will explain what we are doing also with ad insertion at some point. So not all of the standards are useful for us as an encoding company, so I will remind those that are quite important and the one that we are following. So the first one that we were following at the very beginning was S341, that is related to video and HEVC, and that have been approved in 2017. There are still some ongoing work, but the main topic today is HDR10 Plus that can be added on top of the others. So right now what we have is that we have a scalable HEVC with 1.5, 2x and 3x ratio. So SHVC like this, there is no color gamut scalability, but you can still do that using SLHDR1 to have a SDR version for the base layer and a HDR version for the enhancement layer. So there are two main transfer functions that have been accepted, that are HDR10 and HLG10, and the other optional HDR are Dolby Vision with full range and ITP color space conversion. Then, so I'm more video guys, but we need also to look at audio, and audio is also quite important in ATSC 3.0. It will increase the immersivity of ATSC 3.0. So for the US market, we have SE4, and for the Korean market, we have MPEG-H. So with that, you can personalize the audio, change the language. You can also remove the language, which is something that is new compared to the other audio, the main audio stream that we got. You can have some elevation, so you can increase the audio when you have a commentary to have a better user experience in the end. Then ATSC 3.0 is an all IP system, so there is no MPEG-2 TS. Everything is IP. It relies on Dash and MMT. So Dash route for the multicast of Dash, and MMT for the multicast of MMT. For the application signaling, you have some dynamic ad insertion mechanism, also DRM mechanism, and if you want to have subtitles, you can also manage that through the application signaling. So there are two main documents in ATSC. So A331, that is for the signaling, so for the MMT and the Dash route signaling, and for the application signaling you have A337 for the application signaling, which contains the dynamic ad insertion mechanism, so how you dialogue in between the TV set and the application, the HTML5 application. I put in green. It's quite small for me. I put in green everything that that is related to what I am doing as a kind of vendor, as a manufacturer. So what we have today is HEVC, scalable HEVC, and HDR. That's something that is so the two main things that are quite important and mandatory is HEVC and HDR. And scalable HEVC is an optional part of if you want to do some delivery and hybrid delivery system. On the transmission level, so on our side, we are not impacted by that by itself, but we are doing a lot of interoperability with others. On the whole IP system, so we had to provide Dash and MMT. So that's the two main things that we have to output from the encoder. Our encoder is all-in-one, so we have an encoder that is capable of outputting Dash and MMT at the same time. We also support the ad insertion, so there is a demo on the NAB pilot booth and also on our booth, where we use Xlink and multiple period. So I will explain how we are doing that, so that you will have a period for live, a period for the ad, and another period for the live. ATSC 3.0 is also dealing with a new format for subtitle. So they use IMSC1, and we think at least that most of the people at the very beginning will use 608 and 708 as an input. So we will have to do some conversion from 608 and 708 to IMSC1. So 608 is not part, or 708 is not part of the ATSC 3.0 spec, but we know that everybody will use that at the very beginning as an input of our encoder, and we will have to output IMSC1. Today we were dealing also with Perl on interoperability with DRM, and we used two of them, so Whitevine and ClearKey. Another topic that is quite important in ATSC 3.0 is the emergency alert. We are not impacted by that, so that's not a topic that I will cover. Just to give you an overview, because it's quite important to notice that we are doing a big gap from ATSC 1.0 to ATSC 3.0. So we have 4 times bitrate saving at the same video quality today when we use MPEG-2 to HEVC. There are 3 other codecs, so it's the battle of the codecs today. So we got MPEG-2 10 years after we got AVC or H.264, 10 years after we got HEVC. And now we are dealing with AV1. There is also MPEG-5 that is upcoming, and VVC or H.266 that will probably be the name of VVC in the future. So if you look at the bar graph, the most important one is to go from MPEG-2 to HEVC. After, you don't see the difference so much, but it's still twice, we are still improving twice the bitrate compared to HEVC or to the previous codec. So if we look at the full system today on our side, we are covering so the route and MMTP. We are dealing with third parties. On our side, we have the encoder and the Dash or MMT packager. So we are packaging that in all in one box. And then you have the modulation. Either you go through a gateway. That's the nice thing in ATSC, is that you can de-encapsulate the route, and then you will have Dash that is inside. So you can use a traditional OTT player without having ATSC 3.0 demodulator. So you can reuse part of your stuff previously, and you have ATSC 3.0 receiver. So we are also working with them to make this interoperable. So there are some nice some new things, but if you look at what was done traditionally, so in MPEG-2 TS we have the PAT and the PMT In ATSC 3.0, you have the SLT and the SLS. SLS is at the level of the service, and the SLT is more at the level of the multiplex. So the SLT is more the PAT, and the SLS is more the PMT. So we started with that in ATSC. So 3 years ago, we were one of the first company proposing or demonstrating scalable HEVC. We were not proposing that to ATSC 3.0, but we were demonstrating that inside ATSC 3.0 committee. So we are starting from a UHD source. Then we are doing a down conversion to be capable of doing a HD bitstream, and at the same time we do a UHD encoder. What you have to notice is that you can only decode the HD. The UHD cannot be decoded if you don't receive the HD. So in the end, what you have, so you can have some robustness that is different on the HD and the UHD. So that's the pipe that is in green. So the HD has a small pipe and a higher robustness behind. So we are adding a lot of bits to make it more robust. And in the case of the UHD, you have the pipe of the data in green, and then you have the robustness that is in orange. And you can see that we are not adding a lot of bits. So it means that if you have a mobile reception in the end, you will be able to have the HEVC decoder that will decode the base layer. But if you are going fast as a mobile reception, you won't be capable of receiving the UHD, or if you are far from the antenna. So we have different parts in our encoder. So now I'm explaining what we were doing with Technicolor using their HDR technology, because in the spec you cannot change the color space or the edge, or you can change the color space and the transfer function. So you need external means for doing that, and the only way of doing that today is to use the Technicolor technology. So you can have 709 as the base layer and BT2020 as the enhancement layer, and you can change also the transfer function. So you can have the base layer that will be SDR BT709 and a HD version of it that will be HDR10 BT2020. So now I will speak about something that is quite important also for us, is the repack, because these are quite some impact of on ATSC 1.0. So if you want to have the same video quality today with ATSC 3.0 and ATSC 1.0, so how it will work is that you will, so here we have all the nodes that will be in ATSC 3.0. If I go to the next slide, if I remove one of them from ATSC 3.0 to ATSC 1.0, then you have to send to another node, cell node, the same signal. So you have to do a better a better compression efficiency on top of what you were doing before. So you have to put more channels on a single cell node, which means that you have to you still rely on MPEG-2 for ATSC 1.0. So you need to have a better video compression. This is what we are also proposing to the broadcasters today, to have an appliance that is capable of doing that. And at the same time, you can have you use HEVC, so you have more. You have something that is more efficient, so you don't have any issue of putting for two stations that will stay in ATSC 1.0. You can move all the signal to one station in ATSC 3.0, and you will have exactly the same video quality. So on this side, it's not so hard to manage and to put all the signals that you have to move to the ATSC 3.0 in with a single encoder. This is what we are doing for the dynamic add insertion. Just to the same that what I was saying before is that we will have a lot of things coming from traditional broadcast. So for IMSC1, we will rely on 608 and 708. For add insertions, KT35 is one way of doing that. It is not part of the ATSC 3.0 spec, so that's not something that is part of it, but a lot of people are still using it, so we need to find a way of translating from SKITty35 or SKITty104 to what we call Dash and Xlinks. So Dash for the, I will explain, for the multi-period, and Xlink to download the ad at the receiver side. So this is the full system. So what we will generate after the packager is a multi-period dash MPD. So you will see P0, P1, and P2. These are the period. So P0 is the first period of the live, and then you will enter to another period that is P1 that will contain that will have an Xlink. This Xlink is sent to the receiver. The receiver will have some information about the future. This is what we will have with the MPD. So it will look into the MPD and will have some information about the future. So then the application will trigger at the receiver side, because it will know in advance what it will have to do. So it will have to download an ad, for instance, or to personalize an ad, and to decide which ad it will have to insert. So this is at the receiver side that we will be doing that, but we use SKITty35 to provide this way. So we have in SKITty35 something that is called a pre-roll. Pre-roll is an information that you have beforehand, so you have it 6 seconds before to know when you have to insert an ad. So at the encoder side, what we are doing is that we are preconditioning the stream, so that at the receiver side they are capable of inserting the ad and do the personalization. So this is the main program. So you have the main program, and then you will have an ad called AAA0 and another ad called AAA1. So when you are at the live, you will start by P0, and then 6 seconds before you will know that you will have an ad to insert. So you advise the receiver to provide you will notice the receiver with a new period that there will be a new ad. And then you go to the live. So the MPD will be constructed like this. So you are at the very beginning on the first period, so it's P0. You use the segment template methodology. And then you will be noticed that there will be an ad in the future, 6 seconds after. You will receive a trigger called an Xlink that the app at the receiver side will reuse. And then you can go to the next period, and then to the next period. So this is how we are handling that on a simple use case using it should be SKITty35 and not SKITty34, sorry, and SKITty104 for the splicing and splice out. So that this one was using splicing, splice out first and splicing to finish the ad. There is another mechanism in SKITty104 and SKITty35. You can use only a single trigger from SKITty35 and have what we call an auto return. So we know the duration of the ad, and we can place on this particular period a duration. So it's more or less the same thing, except that we will have a duration. So the ID. So in ATSC 102, everything is static. Everything is pre-encoded at the encoder side. In ATSC 302, we have the way of doing some composition at the receiver side. So to me, it's more user-centric than ATSC 102 is more broadcaster-centric. In that way, you can put a lot of ads, you can agreement the receiver side with a lot of information. So depending on the age, on the sex, on whatever you want, you can have some algorithm at the receiver side and decide which ad is the most appropriate for the end user. So recently we did a plug fix to prepare the NAB pilot demo. So there was plenty of people there, and especially at the receiver side, so with Sony, Samsung, and LG, and also the gateway from NAB Pilot. The idea was to check that the full end-to-end chain was working, that we have all the means for doing ad insertion at the receiver side, and we were contributing together to have the demo that is currently on the show on the NAB Pilot booth, where you can see the free TVs receiving a SKITI35 notification. They are also doing that live, meaning that they can push a button and have an ad insertion based on this push button, so something that is done live and not something that is already pre-recorded. So if you want to see this particular demo of dynamic ad insertion, so you can go to the ATEM booth, so to our booth. We are showcasing that based on the Sony TV and the Android application that is working on the Sony TV. We also have that on the Unisoft booth, and on the NAB Pilot. And this is more important because we have the interoperability in between what we are doing and what we can do at the receiver side, so that the spec is available and we can do dynamic ad insertion with the ATSC 3.0 spec. I think that's all for me. So we have plenty of time for questions.